This is Barry Zalma speaking for Claim School Incorporated's blog, Zalma on Insurance. Today we're going to speak about why a gentleman who was not a professional fraud perpetrator was convicted of insurance fraud, and why his kind sentence proved that more prosecution is needed to deter insurance fraud, and when convicted, the sentence must be sufficient to deter further people from committing insurance fraud, and why an ATV fraud failed for lack of evidence of ownership and testimony of a co-conspirator. Thomas Orville McLaughlin III was convicted of committing a fraudulent insurance act, making of false information, and interfering with law enforcement. He appealed, claiming several of the state's exhibits were improperly admitted and that a defense witness was improperly excluded. In State of Kansas v. McLaughlin, the Court of Appeals of Kansas on June 21, 2024, dealt with McLaughlin's attempt to seek relief from his conviction for insurance fraud. But the evidence was against him, and on August 2, 2016, Thomas McLaughlin had reported a burglary. He contacted law enforcement and later spoke to Officer Travis Debarge about the burglary. McLaughlin advised the officer that his storage container had been robbed and 3 ATVs were missing. The following day, McLaughlin also spoke to Defendant Mark Montague about the burglary at his residence, and during their conversation, McLaughlin presented the detective with a list of stolen items, including tools, TVs, guns, and jewelry. At trial, the state presented photographs that showed McLaughlin moving a TV and other items out of his house the night before the alleged burglary. In making his insurance claim, McLaughlin was required to provide documentation of the ATV's purchase. At trial, Melissa Weber from Progressive Insurance testified to McLaughlin's inconsistent statements, noting how at first McLaughlin said that he did not have one of the ATV titles. He had claimed that the titles and bills of sale to the ATVs were not available because they were kept in a safe that was later reported stolen. Yet in the same interview, McLaughlin told Weber that the title was destroyed in a house fire a year before. Weber had recorded her conversation with McLaughlin, and the recording was played to the jury at the trial. At trial, also, McLaughlin's ex-wife, Sky Gaskell, testified about McLaughlin's and her actions toward defrauding the insurance company. Her trial testimony also admitted that she had lied to the insurance investigators both in their initial investigation and during her sworn statements taken in her deposition. The jury also heard evidence that Gaskell still possessed some of the reported stolen tools from the alleged burglary. 2 of the state's witnesses, Huntley and Montague, both testified that it was McLaughlin who submitted the false documents, and it was McLaughlin who purchased the insurance for the ATVs. For each of the 3 ATVs, the state showed how the ATVs were not owned by McLaughlin during the period that he claimed, and presented evidence of McLaughlin's actions toward his claimed ownership. The jury convicted McLaughlin of committing a fraudulent insurance act, making false information, and interference with law enforcement. He was sentenced to 12 months in jail, but it was suspended in exchange for 24 months of probation. In my opinion, concerning the light sentence for a serious planned, premeditated insurance fraud, McLaughlin had an unmitigated gall to appeal the conviction, ignoring the detailed evidence of his fraud and the testimony of his co-conspirator wife, who only married him for his money that he was stealing. More prosecutions of insurance fraud perpetrators are needed, and when convicted, the sentence needs to be severe to deter others from attempting insurance fraud who might be more competent at fraud than McLaughlin. This video was adapted from my blog, Zelma on Insurance, which is available free to anyone who clicks on the URL zelma.com and subscribes. With the subscription, you will be given notice of every blog posting, sometimes 5, sometimes 6 a week, and you will also gain access to the more than 4,800 blog postings. Please tell your friends and colleagues about these blogs and these videos so that they too can subscribe. They're free. And if you're interested in more detail about insurance claims, and insurance fraud and insurance law, please consider for a very small fee subscribing to my Substack publication. Thank you for your attention.